Henry Kane remembered the taste of stale coffee that morning, bitter, tepid, yet it matched his mood perfectly. He was a retired police officer used to routine. For 15 years, he'd served in the local precinct, building a reputation for being methodical and sharp-eyed. Now he stood in his own kitchen, swirling the dregs of the coffee in his mug, replaying a discovery he'd made only the day before. A pair of men's underwear that did not belong to him. He'd found them in the laundry hamper when he was sorting clothes. The garment was obviously too large and had a tiny tear on one side, plus a distinctive pale stain near the pocket. At first, he'd blinked, uncertain. Then an image crashed into his mind. 3 months ago, during a fishing trip, he'd glimpsed identical underwear on his longtime best friend Ray Calhoun. Ray had boasted about how comfortable they were, and Henry had half laughed, half rolled his eyes. Now the memory felt like an indictment. "These aren't mine," Henry whispered that night, standing in the laundry room. A slow, cold fury coiled in his gut. Later, alone, he recalled how Ray had invited him for a beer, how they'd known each other for over 20 years. They'd served on the force together for a while, Ray in a different unit. They'd always been close, sharing jokes, going fishing, or shooting pool at Mac's bar. Henry scowled at the hamper. If these underwear truly belonged to Ray, it meant something unspeakably vile. His wife, Lorraine, was sleeping with Ray under Henry's nose. Henry took a ragged breath. 20 years, he muttered, thinking of how far back his bond with Ray went. A swirl of suspicion and heartbreak whipped in his mind. Was it possible they'd been sneaking around all this time? He fished out his phone, needing air. He walked out of the house quietly, not wanting to alarm Lorraine. She was in the living room, flipping channels with disinterest, oblivious that Henry's heart was pounding a war drum. The next morning, Henry pretended all was normal, though he felt his entire life had upended. He kissed Lorraine's cheek mechanically, ignoring the subtle smirk on her lips. He recognized, for the first time, an odd flicker of arrogance in her eyes, as if she had a secret. Maybe he was imagining it, or maybe she really was that bold. He hopped in his pickup truck and drove to the old shooting range where he sometimes cleared his head. The targets offered no solace, though. He kept replaying every sign he'd missed. The times Lorraine stayed out late with girlfriends, the times Ray canceled on Henry last minute only for Henry to get suspicious messages from Lorraine. It formed a puzzle he'd never wanted to piece together. By midday, he decided to investigate discreetly, just like old times. He'd run stakeouts, bug houses, gather intel. Now he would turn those skills against his own wife. The irony disgusted him. But he needed the truth. He started with small steps, rummaging through the hamper, rechecking pockets, scanning receipts. Sure enough, he found suspicious duplicates of Ray's brand of cigarettes. Lorraine didn't smoke. Neither did Henry. So whose were they? The brand matched Ray's old preference exactly. That evening, Henry confronted Lorraine lightly, feigning curiosity. "Hey, honey, found some random cigs in the hamper. Did you start smoking or—" Lorraine arched a brow, pursing her lips. "Maybe they're from a friend who visited. I had Janine over last week. She smokes." Henry feigned a shrug. "Oh, right." Inside, he seethed. "She's lying to my face," he thought. Over the next week, Henry placed a small voice-activated recorder in Lorraine's car. He'd kept a stash of discreet devices from his police days. He'd never abused them, but necessity overrode any moral qualms now. He planted it under the driver's seat, knowing Lorraine often spoke on speakerphone while driving. If she was in contact with Ray, Henry might catch them. The entire plan made his blood run hot with both anticipation and revulsion. He hated stooping to subterfuge in his own marriage. 2 days after he planted it, he retrieved the device and spent an evening replaying the audio. Most of it was mundane. Lorraine singing along to the radio, muttering about errands. Then, near the midpoint of the tape, a phone call. "Hey, baby," Lorraine's voice cooed. "Henry's out, I can talk." Henry's stomach twisted. He recognized Ray's muffled tone, though the words were partially garbled by static. "You sure that old hound's not onto us?" Ray asked, with a chuckle in his voice. Lorraine let out a light laugh. "He can't catch a cold. Trust me, he's clueless. He's so naive. We've been pulling this off for 20 years, Ray, and he's never had a hint." Henry paused the tape, heart hammering. 20 years? That was as long as they'd known each other. His world blurred. He forced himself to press play again. Ray said something about the next meetup, and Lorraine teased, "Remember last time? You left your drawers in my hamper, you dope." I had to bury them under Henry's old uniform so he wouldn't find them. Ray laughed. "God, that was close. But we're unstoppable, babe." A swirl of heartbreak and fury made Henry nearly crush the recorder. He took a shaky breath. They'd been laughing at me for 2 decades. His jaws ached from clenching them so tight. He decided right then and there that he wouldn't just confront them. No, he would orchestrate a trap so they'd regret every moment of betrayal. The following morning, Henry forced a casual air around Lorraine as though nothing had changed. He even offered to pick up groceries for her. She gave him a suspicious glance. He rarely volunteered for errands, but eventually smirked. "Sure," Lorraine said. "We're out of milk and eggs." He nodded, leaving with forced calm. In the truck, he stared at the horizon, mind swirling with possible plans. A direct confrontation might end in a screaming match with no real consequence. He wanted more. He wanted them to feel the humiliation he'd felt. A big display, some kind of public or at least group retribution. Over the years, he'd learned how to arrange stings that cornered criminals. Now, ironically, he'd do it to corner his wife and best friend. He phoned an old contact from the force, Jonas, a retired detective who owed him a favor. "I need to track down some interesting details about Ray Calhoun," Henry said. Jonas chuckled. "You mean your buddy from the old precinct? Something up?" Henry exhaled. "Let's say I suspect he's messing around with more than one married woman, possibly wives of other men. I want to confirm that. You think you can help?" Jonas paused. "That's unusual, Henry. But yeah, I can dig around. You still have old evidence forms, photos, or you want me to run new checks?" "New checks," Henry said, voice tight. "Look into his phone records if possible. Social media, job site logs, anything." Jonas sighed. "All right, I'll do it quietly." Henry hung up, a spark in his eyes. If Ray was cheating with multiple wives, then Henry could gather them all for a dramatic confrontation. "Let them see the scumbag for what he is," he muttered. Step by step, the trap took shape in his mind. Finding the location. While rummaging through old property listings, Henry recalled an abandoned farm property 10 miles out of town. It had once been a crime scene years ago, some bootleg operation in the barns. Now, it was deserted. Henry had the keys from the county records, a relic of the time he oversaw the site's investigation. The place was secluded, perfect for a secret meeting. He pictured it, a battered farmhouse, broken windows, scattered hay bales inside a creaking barn. No neighbors for miles. The ideal venue for an ambush that no one would suspect. He drove out there one late afternoon, the road dusty and lined with overgrown weeds. Sure enough, the farm remained as dismal as he remembered. The gate hung crooked, the paint peeling from the sign. He tested the old barn door, still locked but easily secured from the outside, perfect for confining people if he needed to. Some might call it kidnapping, but Henry told himself he just needed them cornered for a confrontation. No real harm. "We'll see," he thought with grim determination. The next step, orchestrate an invitation. He needed to lure both Lorraine and Ray to that location. Some story about a surprise fishing spot or a hidden stash. Something that would entice them. Meanwhile, Jonas eventually called back with the info. Ray had indeed messed around with at least 3 other wives in the past year alone. Jonas had phone transcripts, text logs, everything. The men in question, a trio of imposing guys from around town, were all oblivious to Ray's betrayal. "They might be quite upset if they found out," Jonas quipped. Henry felt a savage thrill. "Let's get them upset. They deserve the truth." He then systematically reached out to each man, careful not to blow his cover. Some he recognized from the local gym or old community cases. He simply explained that Ray had messed around with their wives, providing partial evidence. They expressed outrage, demanding details. Henry said, "I'll show you everything. Meet me at this farm. We can confront him together." The men, furious and eager for payback, agreed. Henry set a date and time. He told them, "Don't let your wives know. Keep it hush for now." They promised. The plan was set in motion. Henry waited until the day before the arranged trap. That morning, he casually told Lorraine, "Hey, I got a line on an old farm property that might be cheap to invest in, thinking about flipping it. Could use your eyes to see if it's worth anything. Want to come check it out tomorrow at 4 p.m.? She frowned, suspicious. "You? Buying farmland? Since when?" He forced a grin. "I've been bored in retirement. Might want to do something big. If you're free, meet me there. I'll text you the address." Lorraine shrugged. "I guess." Her tone dripped with mild annoyance, but Henry played it cool. She had no reason to suspect an ambush, especially since she was used to seeing him as a clueless fool. Next, Henry texted Ray. "Need your help. Found an old place out of town for a side job. Could use your input. Meet me at 4 p.m. I'll send the location. Don't tell anyone. Want to keep this hush-hush." Ray responded with a short, "Sure, buddy. I'll be there." Henry smirked at his phone. "Buddy. he muttered darkly, knuckles whitening. You won't be my buddy much longer. He double-checked the external locks at the farm. Everything set. The three scorned husbands, Terrence, Jordan, and Malcolm, planned to arrive around 4:30. Meanwhile, Henry wanted to ensure Ray and Lorraine arrived first, so they'd be locked in. Then the best friend's wife, Sonia, was the final piece. Jonas had discovered Ray was also messing around behind Sonia's back. Henry decided to invite her too. She deserved the truth, and she might deliver her own brand of vengeance. That morning, Henry texted Sonia, "You don't know me, but your husband is cheating with my wife. I have proof. Meet me at the old farm. I'll show you everything." Initially, she balked, but after Henry forwarded a snippet of Ray's explicit text, she agreed, voice shaking with fury. "Yes," Sonia said on the phone. "I'll come, that bastard. I can't believe him." Henry ended the call, finalizing the arrangement. A savage satisfaction glimmered in his eyes. He was done being the unwitting cuckold. At 3:45 p.m., Henry arrived at the abandoned farm. The sky was gray, threatening rain, and the wind hissed through the broken slats of the barn. He parked behind the main house so no one would see his truck. Inside the large, dilapidated barn, he set up a small folding chair near a corner. Then he tested the door from the outside, making sure he could bar it swiftly. Lorraine's car pulled up around 4 o'clock on the dot, dust billowing. Henry watched from behind a cracked window. She stepped out, scanning the area with a puzzled expression. "Henry?" she called, footsteps crunching on gravel. "This place is a dump." Henry quietly slipped behind her, emerging from the shadows. "Over here," he said, waving toward the barn. "Come see." She turned, frowning. "What's with the secrecy?" "Just follow me," Henry replied. "I want to show you something inside." Lorraine tossed her hair. "Fine." She strode over, her posture confident, as if certain she was still in control. Minutes later, another vehicle pulled up. Ray hopped out, wearing that same cocky grin Henry had grown to despise. "Hey, buddy," Ray called. "Got your text. What's so special about this place?" Henry forced a polite nod. "Inside, I'll explain." Lorraine crossed her arms, glancing between them with a flicker of tension. Henry just gestured for them to follow into the barn. The structure's interior was dim, dusty beams overhead, old farm equipment rusting in corners. Lorraine wrinkled her nose. Ray cast a curious look. "All right, so what's the big reveal?" Ray asked, clearing his throat. Henry calmly stepped toward the sliding barn door behind them. He yanked it shut, swiftly pulling a heavy bar into place, locking them in. The dull clang echoed. Lorraine spun around, alarmed. "What are you doing?" she said, voice edged with panic. Ray's brow furrowed. "Henry?" Henry faced them, arms folded. "We're going to have a talk," he said quietly, "about your 20-year affair, about the lies, and about how you've both taken me for a fool." Lorraine's eyes flashed. "What? Are you crazy?" Ray let out a forced laugh. "What are you talking about, pal? There's no—" Henry held up a phone, pressing play. Instantly, a snippet of the conversation from the recorder filled the barn. Lorraine's voice, giggling. "He'll never catch on. He's so naive." Then Ray's laugh. "We've been sneaking around for 20 years, babe." The audio crackled and ended. Lorraine's face went white. Ray's eyes darted. You bugged us," Lorraine hissed. Henry's jaw tightened. "You left me no choice. I found your underwear in my hamper, Ray." Ray swallowed. "Look, it's not what you think." Lorraine barked a harsh laugh. "Who cares if he found out now? It's too late. We've had our fun. And we can still walk out. You think you can lock us up like some prisoner? We'll call the cops." Henry smirked darkly. "Go ahead. I am the cops, or I was. I know how to handle a simple confrontation. Not letting you leave until I'm done." Ray stepped forward, fists clenching. "Don't do something you'll regret." Henry squared his shoulders, ex-police stance firm. "You're not in a position to threaten me. The door's locked, and we have company coming soon." Lorraine sneered. "Company? Who?" Before Henry could answer, footsteps sounded outside. A frantic pounding on the barn door made Ray twitch with apprehension. Henry slid the bar aside just enough to see who was there. He recognized the silhouettes of Terrence, Jordan, and Malcolm, the three men whose wives Ray had also seduced. Perfect timing. He opened the door slightly and gestured them in. "What the hell is this?" Lorraine snapped as three tall, furious men entered. They eyed Ray with open hatred. Malcolm pointed at Ray. "That's him, right? The scumbag hooking up with my wife behind my back?" Terrence clenched his jaw. "Yeah, we got the messages to prove it." Ray's face paled. "Now hang on, fellas, this is some misunderstanding." Jordan, arms like tree trunks, stepped forward. "Misunderstanding, my ass. You've been messing with my wife for months. Think I wouldn't find out?" Lorraine looked from Ray to Henry, shock swirling. Wait, you cheated with other wives too. Ray, you said I was the only one. Ray spread his hands helplessly. Lorraine, babe, it's not like that. It was casual. Doesn't mean anything. She glared, face twisting with betrayal. You worthless liar. Henry snorted. So you see, Lorraine? The man you spent decades betraying me with also betrayed you. Lorraine glared at Henry, voice venomous. You set us up. You're the real liar here. He exhaled. I'm done being the fool. He locked the barn door behind the three men, sealing them all inside. None of you leaves until we air this out. Every last bit. Ray's eyes darted around, adrenaline clearly surging. He looked at the men closing in. Look, guys, we can talk this out. Malcolm cracked his knuckles, stepping closer. You talked enough to my wife. Now it's my turn. Suddenly, there was a muffled scream from outside. Henry, let me in! The tone was female, laced with fury. Henry realized it must be Sonia, Ray's wife. Perfect. He unbarred the door again and let her in. She stormed inside, eyes blazing. Ray, you bastard! She shouted, pointing a shaking finger. You dare cheat on me with multiple wives, including Lorraine? My God, you told me you were on business trips. Meanwhile, you're hooking up behind my back. Disgusting. Ray stepped forward, an attempt at calm. Sonia, baby, let me... She slapped him hard across the face, the crack echoing in the rafters. Don't you baby me, you dog! She screamed. Lorraine let out a harsh laugh. Serves you right, Ray. But keep your hands off me, lady, she snapped at Sonia. He's mine. He always has been. Sonia turned on Lorraine. Oh, you think so? She lunged, hand swinging, the open palm connected with Lorraine's cheek, sending the pregnant mistress stumbling backward. How dare you! Lorraine shrieked, hair wild as she tried to regain balance. She grabbed a rusted shovel leaning against the wall. You want to lay a finger on me again? I'll bust your skull. Sonia's lips curled. Go ahead, you homewrecker. Show me what you got. Henry stepped between them. Stop! Enough! His voice echoed with the command of a former officer. We're not here to kill each other. We're here for the truth. Lorraine swung the shovel in a warning arc. The truth? That I've had Ray in my bed for 2 decades. That I manipulated you, Henry, because you were an idiot who never saw it coming? That's the truth you want? Henry's blood boiled. Say that again, he growled. Lorraine sneered. You heard me. You always prided yourself on being sharp, but you never even suspected a thing. Ray and I laughed about it for years. At that, Terrence and Jordan advanced on Ray. I can't believe you seduced my wife, Terrence said, fury contorting his face. You scum! Ray raised his arms defensively. Wait, let's talk, or... Malcolm shoved him. No more talking. He threw a punch into Ray's stomach, doubling him over. Ray coughed, staggering back, eyes wide with pain. Henry didn't move to stop them. Let the men get some measure of vengeance. Sonia watched with arms folded, lip curled, seemingly approving that Ray was getting his due. Lorraine stepped aside, glancing warily at the 3 raging men. She still clutched the shovel. Henry side-eyed her, ready to intervene if she struck. Jordan grabbed Ray by the collar. You messed with my wife and bragged about it. Remember your texts, jerk? Ray tried to breathe, eyes darting for an escape. That was... You guys are taking this too far. Terrence cracked him across the jaw. Ray stumbled, blood seeping from his lip. Lorraine gasped, then rushed forward to defend Ray. Stop hurting him, you psychos, she screeched. I'll call the cops if you keep this up. Henry barked a mirthless laugh. Cops? You think any of us want that? Considering you're locked in here, carrying on an affair, forging a plan to humiliate me for years? Good luck. Sonia advanced on Lorraine, raw fury etched on her face. And you prancing tramp? You think you're the only victim? Ray lied to me too. But you hopped in bed with a married man for 2 decades. You deserve worse. Lorraine spat. You can't talk to me like that. She swung the shovel. Sonia ducked, lunging forward to grab Lorraine's hair. She yanked viciously, sending Lorraine stumbling. Lorraine screeched in pain. Let go! Lorraine shouted, nails scraping at Sonia's arm. Sonia twisted her hair, forcing her to drop the shovel. You worthless snake! You had no right at all! Lorraine flailed, tears of rage in her eyes. He's better than you deserve, you hag! She elbowed Sonia in the ribs, making her grunt. The 2 women nearly tumbled to the straw-littered floor, locked in a furious tangle. Henry stepped back, letting the fight play out. He felt a savage satisfaction at seeing Lorraine's arrogance meet a matching force. He suspected there might be injuries if he didn't intervene soon. But for now, he let them scuffle. Meanwhile, the 3 scorned husbands cornered Ray, who struggled to remain upright. Malcolm pinned Ray against a wooden beam. You humiliated me in my own home, with my own wife. That's a line you don't cross, Ray spat blood. She wanted it. We only... Jordan pummeled Ray's side. Shut up! You blame her? Don't you dare! Terrence scowled. Let's see how smug you are now, tough guy. They landed a series of punches. Ray grunted, barely able to block them. Please! He gasped. Stop! Lorraine managed to twist free from Sonia's grip, swinging a wild punch that caught Sonia's chin. Sonia staggered, fury intensifying. She slapped Lorraine again, hard enough that Lorraine's lips split. Lorraine's eyes burned with tears and hatred. She lunged, tackling Sonia into a pile of old grain sacks. They tumbled in a swirl of dust, cursing and screaming. The chaotic echoes filled the barn. Henry stood aside, arms folded, bitterness and triumph swirling in him. Look at the mess you both made, he snarled at Lorraine. This is your doing. She shot him a venomous glare, trying to push Sonia away. Screw you, Henry, you never satisfied me. That's why I turned to Ray. Sonia slapped her once more, causing Lorraine to cry out. Don't talk to him like that, Sonia snapped. After everything, you still have the gall. Meanwhile, the men forced Ray to his knees. Henry stepped forward at last, addressing them. Enough. Don't kill him. Just let him understand the price of betrayal. Ray coughed, spitting blood on the barn floor. Henry, he wheezed. Tell them to let me go. We can talk this out, right? Henry's stare was ice. Talk? You spent 20 years mocking me behind my back, hooking up with my wife in my own bed. You used me as a cover for your affair, and you lied to your wife, your best friend's wife, and these men's wives. You deserve worse than a beating. Lorraine, pinned by Sonia, shrieked, Henry, do something! He slowly shook his head. Why would I? You made your choice. Here's the result. Sonia, panting, finally released Lorraine, who curled into a fetal position, moaning. Sonia stood, wiping a smear of blood from her lip. I hope you rot, she hissed at Lorraine. Lorraine spat dust. You psycho. Sonia kicked a bit of straw at her. Shut your mouth. Jordan glanced back at Henry, adjusting his shirt. We're done here, man. He's not going anywhere for a while. Terrence and Malcolm eased off Ray, who slumped to the ground, trembling. Henry eyed them all. This was more violent than he'd originally planned, but he couldn't pretend it wasn't satisfying. He stepped toward Ray, who looked up with watery eyes. Ray managed a raspy whisper. You got me, Henry. Enough's enough. Let me go. Henry crouched, voice low. Let you go so you can keep laughing about me? So you can run off with Lorraine? Or cheat with more wives? No. First, you apologize to every one of these people you wronged. Ray coughed, spitting more blood. I'm sorry, to all of you. I messed up. Lorraine groaned from the floor. Coward. Stop sniveling. We can still... Sonia rounded on Lorraine. Still what? Keep the affair going? You must have a screw loose. She advanced, but Vannery held out a hand. That's enough, he said quietly. A sudden hush fell in the barn. Rain began to patter on the roof. Everyone's breathing was ragged, tension thick. Henry felt a sense of finality. He drew a shaky breath. I've seen enough, Henry said. Time to end this. He unbarred the barn door, letting in a gust of damp wind. All of you, out! Terrence and Jordan exchanged glances, then each gave Ray a final shove. Malcolm glared, then turned to Henry. We good here? We taught him a lesson. Henry nodded. We're good. They stomped out, vanishing into the rainy afternoon, determined to confront their own wives later with the truth. Sonia lingered, staring at Ray with undisguised contempt. Don't come home, she said coldly. Not after this. Then she pivoted and left, letting the barn door swing behind her. Ray lay there, panting, battered. Lorraine slowly, painfully stood, wiping blood from her split lip. She faced Henry, eyes filled with hatred and humiliation. You think this is over, you bastard? Henry's gaze was steely. Oh, it's over. I'll be filing for divorce tomorrow. And guess what? I have recordings, pictures, evidence that you and Ray sneaked around for 2 decades. That'll look real good in court. Lorraine sneered, though tears glistened in her eyes. You can't just walk away from me. I'll fight you for every penny. He gave a dark laugh. Fight me all you want. I've got decades of police experience to dig up every asset, every trace. You'll leave with the clothes on your back if I have anything to say about it. Ray coughed again, struggling to stand. Henry, he rasped, I was your friend. For a long time. Shut up, Henry snapped. You were never my friend. He turned away, yanking open the barn door. Both of you, get out. You're lucky I don't call in some favors and have you locked up for trespassing or assault. Go. Lorraine shot him a hateful glare, but complied. She helped Ray limp out into the drizzling rain. Henry followed them part way, ensuring they got in their cars, knowing there would be fallout. but no more immediate violence. Lorraine slammed her door, screeching away. Ray, battered and bruised, drove off more slowly, spit dribbling from his mouth. Thunder rolled in the distance. Henry stood alone on the muddy ground, heart pounding from the intensity of the showdown. Part of him felt hollow, but another part burned with savage satisfaction. They faced their moment of truth. The final step would be in the courthouse. Just 3 weeks later, Henry walked into the local courthouse, a folder of evidence tucked under his arm. Lorraine arrived with a bandage still visible at the corner of her lip, eyes brimming with resentment. She wore an air of confidence, though. She'd found a lawyer specializing in wronged wives, but Henry's counsel was formidable. He had all the recordings, the hamper evidence, the phone logs, everything. The judge listened with a grave expression. Lorraine's lawyer tried to spin it as emotional abuse by Henry, claiming he locked her and Ray in a barn. Henry's lawyer calmly presented the recordings. Lorraine mocking Henry, proclaiming she'd cheated for decades, humiliating him. The judge's gaze turned cold. Then came the revelation that Ray had assaulted multiple marriages, including a pregnant wife, and that Lorraine was complicit. The judge frowned deeply, seeing how Henry's barn trap had been a misguided attempt to confront them, not to commit bodily harm. Lorraine tried to cry on the stand, painting Henry as a controlling ex-cop with violent tendencies. "He let those men beat Ray! He set us up!" she insisted, voice breaking. Henry's lawyer responded with the overshadowing fact. Lorraine had engaged in a 20-year affair in Henry's own home, forging a pact with Ray to humiliate him. The evidence was undeniable. In the end, the judge ruled that Henry had sufficient grounds for a fault-based divorce, citing Lorraine's prolonged infidelity and deception. She got no spousal support. The house was awarded to Henry outright, given he'd purchased it before marriage. The judge also recognized that Lorraine's malicious betrayal undermined any claim to Henry's pension or retirement funds. The only partial concession was a small settlement, which Henry's lawyer had already minimized through evidence of marital misconduct. As the gavel struck, Lorraine's arrogance shattered. She stood, seething, ignoring the stares of onlookers. Henry exhaled, shoulders sagging with a strange mixture of relief and bitterness. The court clerk gave them final instructions. Lorraine stormed out, refusing to look him in the eye. Henry's lawyer placed a hand on his shoulder. "You did it," the lawyer said. "You're free." Outside in the courthouse parking lot, Henry paused, letting the crisp air fill his lungs. He saw Ray in the distance, leaning on a cane, still bruised from the beating. Sonia was nowhere in sight, presumably finalizing her own divorce. Ray caught Henry's eye for a split second, then lowered his gaze and limped away. Henry didn't approach. He simply walked to his truck, started the engine, and drove off, leaving the courthouse behind. The storm clouds parted overhead, revealing a fragile sunlight. The farmland fiasco, the savage confrontation, the big brawl, all of it was done. And in that final sense, so was Henry's marriage. No epilogue needed.